Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here as always. Today is Friday, the 25th of March. 25th of March, Friday. You could also see that it is Good Friday. Good Friday. The signs we're dealing with today are a sun sign in Aries and a moon sign that has made the transition or is making the transition as we speak, and it is going into Scorpio from Libra. So Scorpio from Libra. So if we look at what we're dealing with today, Emperor, Aries, he who sets in order, Hebrew letter He, which means window. It's like looking out the window to see what you have created and then being able to put things in order. Moon sign, death. Death is a process we all go through, but this deals with the emotions. When the emotions go through a death-like phase, it usually plays itself out in the physical world in some shape or another. However, this death here is not the death, the end of all things. It is simply a transition from one form to another. So when we have the ideas of Scorpio, we're looking at the ideas of emotions. And the reason the idea of darkness comes in with some of these Scorpio emotions is simply because if you think of the ocean, these are emotions that are down further. Okay, they're deeper down, buried deeper down. So as they rise to the surface, or as we experience them deeper down where they are, there's darkness there because the light doesn't travel so far. That's all. Very practical. As these things rise to the surface, they then have to be dealt with. Sometimes if emotions are rising to the surface and they're so heavy, then they need to be processed. And that's where the death comes in. Okay? Having to deal with heavy emotions. But once we get past that, don't we feel better? You know, we feel better because something has released itself. And that's what the whole process of this is about. We release in order to become something else, something bigger. Like a seed releases the pattern of being a seed to become the flower. Okay, so the transition into Scorpio doesn't occur till this afternoon. At the moment, we're in a void of course, which means we're not in any particular moon sign, but we will be, and that's coming up in a couple of hours. Now, not too long ago, just a little more than an hour ago, had an opposition that occurred between Venus, the imagination, and Jupiter, expansion. Okay, so if we take a look at that, we have Jupiter right here, and across the way Venus. So Venus, which is all about imagination, is in Pisces. So imagination in the area of our emotions, in the water, and here we have Virgo and Jupiter. Jupiter is expanding what the Virgo is about: patience, timing, the teacher, the healer. And so that's writing opposite of our imagination, dealing with all of our emotions. Okay, so these two need to play together nicely because remember, it's a teeter-totter when you have an opposition and you're trying to come to some understanding between what is expanding and our imagination. See, maybe we can expand our imagination to be useful. 11:48 a.m. Our imagination is now going to have to deal with a lesson to focus itself. So it would appear that after we get past the point here of where we are in opposition with Jupiter, where things become expanded, now we have to contract a little bit, focus. Okay, you get the full picture, a big image of what's available and possible, and then we focus and hone things down to make it more usable for us. And then, of course, we head into Scorpio, this afternoon, where we will be over the course of this weekend. Okay, and on Monday is when we will be going into the next sign, which is Sagittarius. Okay, the moon sign, or the moon right now, is 95.9% of the way full, making its way back down to that new moon on April 7th. On the Jewish calendar, today is the 15th day of Adar 2. 15th day of Adar 2, and the daily thought is being not that. Be still in whatever you do, in whatever form you take, in whatever you decide you are. Always remember that you are not that. Okay. The Dreamspell Oracle today is the 5th day of the wave spell of the human, all about our free will. So it's the overtone, the radiating outward into the world, the overtone, tone of radiance. Today we have the warrior who asks questions. And the guide for today is the seed, planting these ideas that come from these questions. Our hidden power is the serpent, life force energy. Our like-minded energy is the night, all about dreams, abundance, our subconscious. And the challenge for today is the idea of death, the world bridger. So that Scorpio kind of ties right in with this whole idea. We need to explore what this is all about. The phrase for today is I empower in order to question, commanding fearlessness. I seal the output of intelligence with the overtone, tone of radiance. I'm guided by the power of flowering. And today is a galactic activation portal day. We're at 5 columns over, 5 rows up. And here we are at the 5th position. So we have lots of 5s. 5, 5, 5. Solar wind 495.0 kilometers per second. Planetary K index quiet at the moment. Might be up to a 3 over the next 24 hours. The large coronal hole that seems to be opening up in the top of the sun, and even one on the bottom, will be sending solar wind our way over the course of the next couple of days, probably reaching its peak around the 28th. M-class flare possibilities at 1%, X-class also at 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity seems to be subsiding. Mid-latitudes 10 down to 5, upper latitudes from, well, staying the same, and actually going up in a little bit. So slight increases, mostly staying the same. And that's what we're dealing with there. And up in the sky tonight, around 9 p.m., looking southeast, we're going to see Jupiter. Off to the right and up, we're going to see Regulus. All of this is just below a Leo. It says by 11 p.m., the bowl of the Big Dipper stands upside down high in the northeast, straight over the bowl of the dim Little Dipper, as if dumping water into it. They do the reverse in the fall. There you go. It's cosmic weather for today. So we have Scorpio, unconscious, the subconscious mind, the moon sign, trying to understand the idea of death, which we see reflected in the World Bridger on the Mayan Oracle. And Good Friday is a day that we know of where the idea of death is explored. And we're going to explore that as we get on to the rest of the show. In the meantime, UFO News is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thanks for that introduction. Today I have 4 stories for you. The first one here, pilot sees UFO over Mexico City, March 13th, 2016. Last week, a Mexican Air Force pilot took a video of a UFO sighting in Mexico City. Captain Carlos Rodriguez reported a UFO in the evening of 13 March 2016. The sighting took place in the Aqueduct of Guadalupe area of Mexico City. Captain Carlos has recorded as many as 6 UFOs in the suburbs of Mexico City. You can see a UFO that changes color, moves in a zigzag left and right, flying low over the entire area between the Cerro del Tineo and Chitahote. When the object rises vertically into the sky and approaching an airliner that was passing at the time, directed towards the International Airport of Mexico City. The pilot who witnessed the sighting said the following: "It was around 2200 hours when the witness called my cell phone to let me know what was happening in the sky, never imagining that the phenomena would continue for several more minutes. Clearly, this needs further investigation." Here we have a couple of the videos of this sighting that took place on the 13th. Okay, this video itself is 7 minutes in length, and there's the object that was captured in the sky. You could see it changing colors. Okay, very interesting indeed. The link's available at firstcontactradio.com, so you can check it out, see what you think about that situation. Here we have a triangle-shaped craft in the sky above Arroyo Grande. Alright, we got our 3 colored lights there. Check out this interesting video of a triangle-shaped UFO with flashing lights, seen and recorded over Arroyo Grande in the city of San Luis Obispo, California. Witness report was, "I live out in the country. There's large eucalyptus trees all around, and I've seen these trees many times before and never noticed any flashing lights. I was on my deck taking my laundry downstairs to do it, and I noticed 2 blue flashing lights. I got closer and I noticed 2 red flashing lights in my line of sight. There was 1 blue light at 12 o'clock, 1 at 6 o'clock, and I got closer underneath the tree and I saw the red light at 12 and the 1 red light at 6. The blue lights, one on top, were flashing at the bottom, and not both red were not flashing. I thought to myself it might be a drone that landed in the treetops, or possibly a third nested with something that was making these lights. I watched these objects for 3 hours from 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. March 24th, about 10:26 they disappeared. It's now 11:19, still looking out for lights. I will continue. As a follower of MUFON, I understand and believe in this fact, and I'm always on the lookout for such. I attached some videos that I took with my cell phone. I apologize for the swearing." Okay, so we're going to see this momentarily. The red lights, the green lights. Okay, you're going to need to enlarge this screen to see it better. You can see the lights up at the top of the screen here, right here. Okay. Very interesting. Alright, moving on. UFO causes car to stop and driver goes into trance-like state. Have you ever looked into the sky and wondered whether we are alone in the universe? Many people think that in such a vast universe there must be something else out there. But for Gary, the very thought was preposterous. That was until one night in March 2013 when he was recovering a vehicle in Barliston. It was a Friday night when we reached the cell to attend to a breakdown of the car. He was sent to Rough Close, and what he didn't know was this was to be the call he would never forget. Shortly after midnight, the weather was heavy with rain. A lady had broken down some way from home and required Gary's assistance. As he pulled up to the lower car park overlooking Wedgwood, he saw the lady in her car. Gary introduced himself and began to investigate the problems with the car. As he continued to work under the bonnet, he heard a strange sound coming from the field not far away. It sounded like a swishing noise accompanied by a low buzzing, he told me. We both looked towards where the noise was coming from, and we froze with fear when we first saw it. The initial thing we noticed was a light radiating from the field where the noise was coming from. Whatever it was, it had just begun to lift off the ground and was heading directly upwards. Gary described the craft as black in color and shaped like a cigar. He estimated to be approximately 50 feet in length. Both the lady and Gary stood transfixed on the glow of the unknown object. When I glanced at the woman, she was actually smiling. It felt euphoric and stimulating, not scary at all, he explained. When the object reached 20 feet into the air, it slowed down and changed directions, swinging around to face towards them. Gary said that was the only time I felt concerned. It seemed to notice us, and that felt surreal. Then The lady that Gary had come to help started to walk slowly towards the object. He watched with uncertainty and fear as she seemed to be in some kind of a trance. He moved quickly towards the lady and stood in front of her. I was trying to stop her, but she seemed drawn towards the object, continued to try to get past me, keeping her eyes fixed on the craft at all times. Eventually, he shouted over to her, and she seemed to snap out of the trance. At the very same time, the object was letting out a deep pulsing sound before going off in the sky before it disappeared completely. Following the silence, Gary talked to the woman who claimed that although she could remember seeing the light in the field, she couldn't remember walking towards it. When I asked Gary what he thought about the happening, he told me, "I actually think the craft had been waiting for someone to come past and cause the woman's car to break down. When she pulled over, it was waiting for the right time to abduct her, but I showed up and prevented that from happening by simply just being there. It was strange, but once the craft had gone, her car started back up, and I couldn't find any fault with it. So the next time your car starts to play up, it might be worth considering who is actually watching you." That's a good point. Car breaks down, maybe look up at the sky next time, see what's going on. Could be more than you realize. And this last story, though it's not about a traditional unidentified flying object, here we have an object that is floating, so it would be a unidentified floating object, which appears to be city-like. You can see it up there in the clouds. City appears to float on water as UFO reflects distant city. And you can see it stretches out quite a bit. These flying buildings were seen over the port of Dalian, China. There's nothing out there but water, yet these buildings hover in the distance, clearly sinking down from the sky into the ocean. Did aliens construct a mothership that looks like a Chinese city? Probably not, but I will tell you this, it's a reflection off a cloaked mothership. Yes, sometimes the cloak of the UFO can reflect like a mirror, and here is what it is doing. I have seen a UFOs in the blue sky near a white cloud, but the UFO looked white because its cloak was reflecting the color of the cloud. Okay, it says a stunning mirage depicting a large group of buildings was seen above the sea coast in the port of Dalian in northeast China's Liaoning province on Friday. Seen from the land, it appeared as though the buildings were looming in a fog, resembling a fairy city on the sea. Take a look at the splendid scene. All right, so one other explanation. Remember Project Bluebeam that's out there? This isn't the first time a city has been seen up in the clouds, so it could be Project Bluebeam. I've read and seen some speculation that maybe this is us seeing through into another dimensional reality. Maybe that's what's going on. You know, maybe there's something more real to it. Remember, CERN is involved with their projects. They're trying to open up some sort of a wormhole, something to another dimensional reality. So it's quite possible that these things are going on because of that. Or there might be some other explanation. I don't know. I just find it very fascinating, as you probably do as well. All right, that is our UFO news for today. I'm going to jump away to a song, and then I will be back. Stay tuned.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Send down your love,
Great Spirit. Great Spirit. Indeed. All right, today is Good Friday. Good Friday, so I'm going to delve into that topic. It's the topic of life and death. It's a topic that deals with Yeshua. Another name for Yeshua is Jesus. Why is there a difference between the names? Well, even though we refer to Jesus under the name Jesus, during the time when he was alive, there was no letter J. Therefore, he would not have been called Jesus. That is the Americanized version. He would have been Yeshua. Just like throughout the Bible, when you see names that begin with the letter J, they weren't pronounced in beginning with the J. They actually were a Y. So it would be Jerusalem, Yeshua, Yahshua, Yosef, Juan, Yon, all of them. So we have to put in perspective the different languages. Nonetheless, the English name that we use, Jesus, is the name that we use, still represents the same being, and that is the important part. However, the most important part is not the actual personage of Jesus or Yeshua, but the light that shined through, which was the light of the Christ. Now, we do need to separate and understand the difference between these two and also the similarities. We know from the Nag Hammadi library and the text of the Nag Hammadi library, particularly the Apocryphon of John, that the hierarchy of the realms is as such. We have the immortal realms, and in the immortal realms, the mother and the father interacted and created the child, the divine autogens Christ. At this point, you could see the only name reference to this is Christ. Autogens, auto-generating itself. It was a spark that auto-generated the Christ light, and then the Christ light continued to auto-generate and to generate more light, and these lights went out and created these multiple realms. And then these realms each had sub-realms to it. And out of these sub-realms, one of them was a woman, Sophia, right down here, also known as wisdom. And Sophia brought into the world through unnatural means a being, a male being, who was not very much like what the order of the beings before were, because it was brought forth in another manner. It was not brought forth with the thought and with the consent of the Father. So it was simply brought forth out of Sophia's desire to want to see what she could create on her own, what she could do without all the proper connections. And so this being, Yaldabaoth, came forth out of Sophia. And Yaldabaoth had the face of a lion and the body of a serpent, and she was not very pleased with the result. So she cast Yaldabaoth away from her, cast Yaldabaoth away, and created a veil between the worlds, between the realms of the immortals and the mortal realm, the realm of the physical reality. Now, Yaldabaoth was on his own, thought he was the be-all, end-all God, only knew of the mother, didn't understand his connection to the Father whatsoever, but had the power that he had taken, it is the word used as he stole from his mother, and went off and was able to create. Though his power of creation was limited to simply be able to create that which he was already familiar with, or to make a copy of it. So he was able to copy. Now we know from the immortal realms in the Nag Hammadi that it talks about these various realms all with a firmament, and we know a firmament is a dome. So there were a series of at least 12 to 18 of these domed cities, these domed realms, where the immortals lived, and Yaldabaoth was cast out of these domed realms into another place where he created his own realm, a copy of all of the other realms, and he placed a firmament over this realm, so there was a dome over that as well. And within this realm, he created angels and demons, and he created versions of what he thought was out there, and was continuing to be arrogant and continuing to believe that he was God until one day God the Father expressed to Yaldabaoth the truth of the situation, and Yaldabaoth didn't like that. So Yaldabaoth decided that he was going to trap God and make God, this being that he saw claiming to be the be-all, end-all of all things, he was going to trap a piece of that in a vehicle, in a body, in order to be able to have that be subservient to him. Henceforth, the human body came along. Adam and Eve, the story of Adam and Eve. Now, as you hear this story and you hear the word Yaldabaoth, you start to realize, well, wait a minute, that's not the character the Bible uses. They used the name Yahweh. That is exactly correct, because I'm telling a story about the same being. Yaldabaoth is the name in the Gnostic Gospels. However, in the Old Testament, we know that same character as Yahweh. So Yahweh was the fallen one. Yahweh is not the be-all, end-all God. He is not the father and mother. He is not the creator of all. He is simply the one who was involved with this Earth project in whatever way. Now, this could be a story that's tied in with the Sumerians and what we knew of Enlil and Enki. This could be something other than that that we are unaware of. Whatever the case may be, we have a story that talks about a being who came and did something down here on Earth in order to be able to create a species that would be subservient, maybe as a slave race. The Anunnaki talk about mining for gold, creating a slave race in order to assist them. The story of the Garden of Eden and Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, was creating a being in order to provide service to them. They were trying to trap the spark of God, so there's some similarity in these stories. So here we are on Earth, and all this time we're moving through Earth, we're moving through life, not understanding who and what are our creators. And then finally Yeshua comes along. And Yeshua shows us by reminding us of the Spirit that is within us, this inconquerable, undeniable, truth-filled Spirit that flows within us. And as Yeshua was expressing this to us, it helped us to understand the deeper aspects of who we are. Now, the Holy Bible that is used now, the King James Version or some of the other versions, they tell nice little stories in there about Yeshua. But a couple of things they don't really do is they don't stress the name Yeshua. They just kind of leave that out of the mix. So when you talk to people that are Christian or Catholic and you mention Yeshua, some of them don't understand who you mean. That shouldn't be. Not if you're telling the story and want people to really understand. And so it seems if someone's not telling you, it seems like they're trying to hold back because they don't want you to know the full story. So here we have Yeshua expressing to the people of Earth about this light that shines in them for the purpose of them freeing themselves. And all these years later, we have all of this information that has helped us to free ourselves. And whereas there was one Yeshua walking around at that time, due to the words that have come forth in the teachings, there are many who now follow in the example and the footsteps and are leading a life based upon the wonderful teachings that came from Yeshua. Okay, and then thanks to the findings, we have the Nag Hammadi Library, which helps clear up the story. So here we are, and that brings us all around now to Good Friday. This was the time of the year and the time in this story when those who saw Jesus, Yeshua, referred to him as a threat against their system and their structure, so they set out to crucify him, to kill him, to get rid of him, because they didn't want him anymore. He was upsetting the apple cart because they were not telling the people about this light that was within them, not by any stretch of the imagination. The Romans were doing their thing. It wasn't really their focus. They were focused on the material. The Sanhedrin, they were doing their own thing, but they had their particular agenda. They weren't informing the people. And then, of course, you have all of the individual groups that were out there, and a lot of different thoughts and ideas of those trying to express themselves into the world. And we know throughout that time, there were a lot of those, like John the Baptist, who were speaking out and feeling this spirit flowing through them. So there it seemed as if this was a time when we hear a lot about spirit making its presence known into the world to try to help humankind rise above a situation. Now, the one thing about the entire story here is that even though Yaldabaoth was thrown out of the kingdom, cast away by his mother, there was a lot of redemption that occurred later because the Father did know at all times. The Holy Spirit knew at all times what was going on and just observed, knowing that things would come to a good outcome, and this was simply a part of the growth that needed to happen. So here we are. It's Good Friday in the Catholic tradition, Christian tradition. This is a time when we remember when Yeshua, the person, was crucified, put upon a cross to die in order to snuff him out from all of humanity because he was a threat. And so this ritual is played out every year, and you've seen many stories that are, take place this time of year. Last night I did watch Killing Jesus, uh, Bill O'Reilly's book made into a movie. And I got to tell you, if you've watched the show long enough, you know that I've never really been a Bill O'Reilly fan. That being said, I have to give props where props is due because he did write a good story, and if this script and this movie did follow along with what he had written, if it was true to that, then it was well done. It was well done. It played out the story um, in a very nice, organized manner that told the story, let you know what was going on. And so, if nothing else from Bill O'Reilly, I have to at least say in this regard, he done good. All right, so we have the story of Yeshua, Jesus. We have the Stations of the Cross, which are played out throughout this Lenten season. Lenten season is the time 40 days prior to Easter in which it is remembered that Yeshua went out into the desert and for 40 years sat and was 40 days sat and was instructed and was tempted and basically came to find out who he was. Because what we have up to that is we have a Jesus, a person who was living through life, coming to understand all about life and what life was about, learning scripture, traveling from 17 into 30, and just being a person learning. He wasn't out on a mission because he wasn't prepared for that yet. It really wasn't until he went and was baptized when things really evolved, because that's when the Spirit came down and we understand about the Spirit of life settled over Jesus. This is my beloved Son, listen to him. So we see now from that point on everything was different. The Stations of the Cross, which are played out, I thought I would read these today just as a reflection about what all this meant. Lent is a time for reflection, renewal of covenant, and revival of spirit. When and where? This year we will have the opportunity of publicly professing our faith by walking and praying the Stations of the Cross near the beginning of Lent. From Luke 9:23, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. You are welcome to come and join us as we take this walk, stopping by each station for prayer and meditation. This can be a moving experience for individuals or families. Please plan to prayerfully participate in this very personal walk with Jesus. Come just as you are. So how did these stations come to be and why? From the earliest days, followers of Jesus told the story of his passion, death, and resurrection. Pilgrims to Jerusalem were anxious to see the sites where Jesus was. These sites became important personal connections with Jesus. After many years and people moving around, it was no longer easy or even possible to visit the holy sites. By the 1500s, people all over the world started creating replicas of the places along the route in Jerusalem. Eventually, these shrines became the 14 stations we now know and celebrate. You may be wondering why the sites are called Stations of the Cross. Well, the word station comes from the Latin word meaning to stand. We are walking from Christ's trial to his crucifixion at Calvary, and we stop and stand at certain sites or stations that commemorate the various events that took place along the way. As you come to each station, you stop, pray, read the scriptures, pray the prayers, and contemplate the situation before moving on. As you walk from one station to the next, your walking becomes a devotional act because you are walking with Jesus as he walks to Calvary. On the pages that follow, you will find 14 stations of the cross with pictures, the story associated with each station, prayers, and the meditations. Here we go. First station, Jesus is condemned to death. Jesus stands in the most human of places. He has already experienced profound solidarity with so many on earth by being beaten and tortured. Now he is wrongfully condemned to punishment by death. His commitment to entering our lives completely begins its final steps. He has said yes to God and placed his life in God's hands. We follow him in this final surrender and contemplate with reverence each place along the way as he is broken and given for us. Prayer, we adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. As I view the scene, I become moved by both outrage and gratitude. I look at Jesus, his face, the crown of thorns, the blood, his clothes stuck on the wounds on his back. Pilate washes his hands of the whole affair. Jesus' hands are tied behind his back. This is, for me, that I might be free, that I might have eternal life. As the journey begins, I ask to be with Jesus, to follow his journey. I express my love and my thanks. Second station, Jesus carries his cross. Jesus is made to carry the cross on which he will die. It represents the weight of all of our crosses, what he must have felt when he took the first step. He took it upon his shoulders when with each step he moves more deeply into our human experience. He walks in the pain of human misery and suffering and experiences its crushing weight. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I contemplate the weight of the cross. I imagine how heavy it is. I reflect upon all it means that Jesus is carrying it. I look into his eyes. It's all there. This is for me. So I place myself with him in his journey, in its anguish, in his freedom and surrender, in the love that must be felt, that must fill his heart. With sorrow and gratitude I continue the journey, moved by the power of his love. I am drawn to him and express my love in the words that come to me. Third station, Jesus falls the first time. The weight is unbearable. Jesus falls under it. How could he enter our lives completely without surrendering to the crushing weight of the life of so many on earth? He lays on the ground and knows the experience of weakness beneath unfair burdens. He feels the powerlessness of wondering if he will ever be able to continue. He is pulled up and made to continue. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I stare at the weaknesses in the eyes. I can look at his whole body and see the exhaustion. As I behold him there in the ground, being roughly pulled up, I know forever how profoundly he understands my fatigue and my defeats. This is for me. In grief and gratitude, I want to let him remain there. As I watch him stand again and gain an inner strength, I accept his love and express my thanks. Fourth station, Jesus meets his mother. Jesus' path takes him to a powerful source of strength to continue. All his life, his mother had taught him the meaning of the words, "Behold, the handmaiden of the Lord." Now they look into each other's eyes. How pierced through her heart must be. How pained he must be to see her tears. Now her grace-filled smile blesses his mission and stirs his heart to its depths. Love and trust in God bind them together. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. As I watch them in this place along the way, I contemplate the mystery of love's power to give strength. She knows the sorrow in every mother's heart who has lost a child to tragedy or violence. I look at the two of them very carefully and long for such love and such peace. This is for me such incredible freedom, the availability of a servant. I find the words to express what is in my heart. Fifth station, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross. Jesus even experiences our struggle to receive help. He is made to experience the poverty of not being able to carry his burden alone. He enters into the experience of all of those who must depend upon others to survive. He is deprived of the satisfaction of carrying his burden on his own. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I look into his face and contemplate the struggle, his weakness and fragility, his impotence. I see how he looks at Simon with utmost humility and gratitude. This is for me, so I feel anguish and gratitude. I express my thanks that he can continue this journey, that he has help, that he knows my inability to carry my burden alone. I say what is in my heart with deep feeling. Sixth station, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. Jesus' journey is at times brutal. He has entered into the terrible experience of rejection and injustice. He has been whipped and beaten. His face shows the signs of his solidarity with all those who have ever suffered injustice and vile, abusive treatment. He encounters a compassionate, loving disciple who wipes the vulgar spit and mocking blood from his face. On her veil, she discovers the image of his face, his gift to her and for us to contemplate forever. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. What does the face of Jesus hold for me? What do I see as I look deeply into his face? Can I try to comfort the agony and the pain? Can I embrace him with his face so covered with his passion? The veil I behold is the true icon of his gift of himself. This is for me in wonder and awe. I behold his face, now wiped clean, and I see the depth of his suffering and solidarity with all flesh. Station 7. Jesus falls the second time. Even with help, Jesus stumbles and falls to the ground. In deep exhaustion, he stares at the earth beneath him. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you will return. He has seen death before. Now he can feel the profound weakness of disability and disease and aging itself there on his knees under the weight of his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I contemplate Jesus brought very low as I behold him there in the ground with all agony taking its toll on him. I let my heart go out to him. I store up this image in my heart, knowing that I will never feel alone in my suffering or in any diminishment with this image of Jesus on the ground before me. This is for me, so I express the feelings in my heart. Eighth station, Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. The women of Jerusalem and their children come out to comfort and thank him. They had seen his compassion and welcomed his words in healing and freedom. He had broken all kinds of social and religious conventions to connect with them. Now they are here to support him. He feels their grief. He suffers, knowing he can't remain to help them more in this life. He knows the mystery of facing the separation of death. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I look at their faces so full of love and gratitude, loss and fear. I contemplate what words might have passed between them. I remember all his tender, compassionate, merciful love for me. I place myself with these women and children to support him. This is for me, so I let this scene stir up deep gratitude. Ninth station, the last fall. Jesus falls a third time. This last fall is devastating. Jesus can barely proceed to the end, summoning all this remaining strength supported by his inner trust in God. Jesus collapses under the weight of the cross. His executioners look at him as a broken man, pathetic, yet paying a price he deserves. They help him up so he can make it up the hill of crucifixion. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I pause to contemplate him there on the ground, the brokenness that makes me whole, the surrender that gives me life. I pause to experience and receive how completely he loves me. He is indeed completely poured out for me. As I treasure this gifted experience, I express what is in my heart. 10th station, Jesus' clothes are taken away. Part of the indignity is to be crucified naked. Jesus is completely stripped of any pride. The wounds on his back are torn open again. He experiences the ultimate vulnerability of the defenselessness. No shield or security protects him. As they stare at him, his eyes turn to heaven. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I pause and watch the stripping. I contemplate all that is taken from him and how he faces his death with such nakedness. I reflect upon how much of himself he has revealed to me, holding nothing back. As I look at him in this humility, I know that this is for me, and I share my feelings of gratitude. 11th station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. Huge nails are hammered through the hands and feet to fix him on the cross. He is bleeding much more seriously now as the cross is lifted up. The weight of his life hangs in these nails. Every time he struggles to pull himself up to breathe, his ability to cling to life slips away. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I make myself watch the nails being driven through his flesh, and I watch his face. I contemplate the completeness of his entry into our lives. Can there be any pain or agony he would not understand? This is for me, nailed to a cross, to forever proclaim liberty to captives. What sorrow and gratitude fill my heart. 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross. Between two criminals, a mocking title above his head, with only Mary and John and Mary Magdalene to support him, Jesus surrenders his last breath. Into your hands I commend my spirit. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I stand there at the foot of the cross, side by side with all humility, and behold our salvation. I carefully watch and listen to all that is said, and then I experience the one who gives life pass from life to death. For me, I console Mary and John and Mary, and let them counsel me. Console. This is the hour to express the deepest feelings within me. 13th station, the body of Jesus is taken down from the cross. What tender mourning! Jesus' lifeless body lies in his mother's arms. He has truly died, a profound sacrifice complete. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I behold this scene at the foot of the cross. I contemplate touching, caressing his body. I remember all his hands have touched, all who have been blessed by his warm embrace. I pause to let it soak in. He knows the mystery of death. He has fallen into God's hands. That I might love as I have been loved, I pour out my heart to the God of all mercies. In the 14th station, Jesus is laid in the tomb. They take the body of Jesus to its resting place. The huge stone over the tomb is the final sign of the performance of death. In this final act of surrender, who would have imagined the tomb would soon be empty and that Jesus would show himself alive to his disciples, or that they would recognize him in the breaking of bread? Oh, that our hearts might burn within us as we realize how he had to suffer and die so as to enter his glory for us. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. I pause to contemplate this act of closure on his life. In solidarity with all humanity, his body is taken to its grave. I stand for a moment outside the tomb. This final journey of his life has shown me the meaning of his gift of himself for me. This tomb represents every tomb I stand before with fear, in defeat, struggling to believe it could ever be empty. In the fullness of faith in the risen one, I express my gratitude for this way of the cross. I ask Jesus, whose hands, feet, and sides still bear the signs of this journey, to grant me the graces I need to take up my cross, to be the servant of his own mission. There you go. There are the 14 stations of the cross for today, and that brings us to our meditation. So, we've learned quite a bit about the mission of Jesus. We've learned that what he had to do was to show humanity something that they weren't understanding. Imagine in this world how it is when you or I or others try to teach when there aren't willing participants willing to listen or learn. It can be very challenging. We have a lot of that going on in the world. We have a lot of information on different sides of the fence, and people are struggling with each other and trying to find a way through all of the misinformation to what is true. The one thing that's true is that there is this spirit that flows through us, and that is the whole purpose of this. That everything that was just read of these 14 stations show the journey of somebody who made a direct effort to go into the physical realms to experience all the pains of life in order to be able to show that there isn't anything that could happen that would do any damage to the spirit whatsoever. And in the end, spirit showed itself to be what it is, this undeniable, unconquerable spirit of life that emanates through our very being. And so by knowing that that is where our strength is, understanding that spirit flows through us. So let's use this meditation as we go forth over into this weekend to just consider all that this was about. I know Easter time throws a lot, just like Christmas throws a lot of things in the mix, like the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny doesn't have nothing to do with Jesus. They're not connected. The Easter Bunny actually comes from another tradition, but they're all lumped together on this particular day. Put the Easter Bunny aside. Yeah, enjoy the chocolates, enjoy the jelly beans, whatever you're going to do. But put that aside and just understand the sacrifice of this story. Because this is the story here that is helping us to get through this and understand this. Oftentimes we're afraid of this. But this story teaches us there's nothing to be afraid of death, because death had no hold. And in the end, what we read through the Apocryphon of John and the other texts of the Nag Hammadi are confirmations of that exact thing. That this death process does not end, it is just the beginning of another journey. And our spirits continue on. So, whatever we can take from that, take from that. Each and every one of us will have some insight as we contemplate these ideas. So I just say we need to just be open to what that is, open our hearts to the understanding that Spirit has to pour out into our lives. And I think if we do that, we'll be all right. So let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another breath. And exhale. And another breath. And exhale again. Now, let's imagine ourselves walking these steps of Jesus, stepping down from immortality down into the physical realms. The Christ light moves into the being of Yeshua. And imagine those steps moving through life, spreading the truth, spreading insight to help expand until something comes to suppress that. And so this journey that Yeshua takes, that Jesus takes to these 14 stations, is a journey of those trying to suppress, but while at the same time they think they are suppressing, on the other side, Jesus is actually fulfilling a purpose, a mission. And so we take this journey of understanding that as we move through this physical world, there are challenges. As we move through this physical world, there are many distractions. And as we take a look at all that is around us, we find that the challenges are oftentimes greater than we can possibly imagine. But behind and beneath all of this, we come to understand that if we simply have faith and trust in this presence of God, this divine spirit that flows through all of us, that everything will be okay. And so we put ourselves in a place of faithfulness. Faithfulness not being blindness to something happening, but full knowledge and awareness that the something happening is the glory and the greatness of God. God, the essence of all things. A force that emanates and expresses itself in each and every one of us. And just like Jesus had a purpose here in this earth, we all come to realize and understand that we too have a purpose. A purpose of rising above our cross, of letting go of all those things which hold us back, that we can become bigger, better. So as we go forth this weekend, let us just continue to remember the sacrifices made by Jesus as He showed us how to move from this prison of physicalness into the world of immortality. So we thank you, Jesus, for this effort that you made. We understand the challenges that went along with that and how painful it must be. And we thank you for the courage to make that journey, that we might all understand. Heavenly Father and Mother, thank you for blessing the world with the Christ, with the light that shines and emanates through all. And thank you for the person of Jesus, who took on and filled with the Spirit of the Christ, showed us how each and every one of us can express this light into the world. So let's just imagine ourselves walking along the path of life. Let the subconscious mind continue on that journey, appreciating each and every step, contemplating the reason for our being here, and ultimately and simply trusting God, the divine spark of all life. Mother, Father, Son, Great Spirit. So let the subconscious mind continue on that journey, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. That's our show for the whole week. Thank you very much for being here. Enjoy your weekend. Take some time out to contemplate the purpose of what all this is about. Enjoy the Easter. Hey, it's part of the celebration that goes on, okay? We shouldn't discriminate on all of these different things that are out there because they're traditions that those before us have used for some purpose. And if we look for the good in all things, we'll find the good and understand why. Because these traditions aren't usually started for bad reasons. They're started for good reasons. Along the way, they may get perverted, they may get changed, but if we can get past all of those perversions and the changes and go back to the origins, we might be able to find the love that was there that created that tradition and understand something a little bit more about those who started it. But we need to put our judgment aside and we need to be humble to look at that. Because we're all here, my friends, on this journey together, each and every one of us. In order to get through it, we need to be able to communicate with each other, to get along with each other, and appreciate and understand that we're all here together to learn and work together. So that's it, my friends. Have an awesome weekend. Happy Easter. Happy Good Friday. Good in the fact that this is the end of a journey and the beginning of the next step. Not good in the fact that all the torture and the challenge went on, but that was all left behind once the resurrection occurred. And that's what's before us, my friends, the resurrection. Time for us all to allow that spirit to fly. That's it. Have an awesome day, awesome weekend. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.